rules for two other bills as well. One, repealing the requirement that the government withhold 3% from government contractors to ensure their tax compliance. Congress has delayed the start of the law each year since enactment in 2006. Another bill to include Social Security income when calculating Medicaid and subsidy eligibility under the new health care law. Now live House coverage on C-SPAN.
The House will be in order. Our prayer today will be offered by our guest chaplain, Reverend Scott Einan, from the Community Christian Church in Tamarack, Florida.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, it is our prayer that you will grant us wisdom today and that you will bless the members of Congress as they lead our nation during these challenging times. Father, we are amazed by your grace, awed by your resplendent creation, captivated by your love, and dependent upon your guidance for every day. We do not take these blessings for granted. We thank you for them. We also thank you for the problems that come our way, for they make us even more dependent upon you, for your guidance and for your strength. Father, your word tells us that righteousness exalts a nation. So help us to be great by striving to be good. May our representatives exemplify principle-centered leadership. Father, we ask that you would bless the men and women who serve in our military. We ask that you would bless those who serve here in Congress. We ask that you bless this great land that we call home. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
The Chair has examined the journal of the last day's proceedings and announces to the House his approval thereof, and pursuant to Clause 1 of Rule 1, the journal stands approved. The Pledge of Allegiance today will be led by the gentlelady from New York, Ms. Hope. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States. Without objection, the gentleman from Florida, Mr. West, is recognized for 1 minute.
I ask unanimous consent for the review and extension of my statement. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Former Secretary of State William Henry Seward said this: "I do not believe human society, including not merely a few persons in any state, but whole masses of men ever have attained or ever can attain a high state of intelligence, virtue, security, liberty, or happiness without the Holy Scriptures. Even the whole hope of human progress is suspended on the ever-growing influence of the Bible." Today, I'd like to recognize my pastor, Pastor Scott Einan, and Community Christian Church for the service that they give to the community of South Florida, for their missionary work in Haiti as well as in Africa. Mr. Speaker, I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman yields back. The Chair will entertain up to 15 further requests for 1-minute speeches on each side of the aisle. For what purpose does the gentleman from Texas rise?
Request permission to address the House for 1 minute.
Gentleman is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, right now there's probably a group of folks at a large oak table in a marble palace down the street nibbling on their $16 muffins, drinking their lattes, and dreaming up new, expensive, ineffective regulations to impose on the rest of us. They are the regulators. The very term brings fear and trepidation in the hearts and souls of people who work for a living. Meanwhile, 14 million Americans are sitting at their old kitchen table drinking coffee from their Mr. Coffee pot with no job on the horizon. In a Gallup poll this week, small business owners said that complying with government regulations was the biggest economic problem they face. Some businesses pack up their bags and even move to places like China. Meanwhile, the U.S. reckless regulators are putting businesses out of business. The REINS Act will finally bring some accountability to the regulatory bureaucrats by requiring a vote on any regulation costing $100 million or more. Congress must pass this bill now. Cut red tape, clamp down on the renegade regulators, and create jobs. America can't wait, and that's just the way it is.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Rhode Island rise? The gentleman is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize the Leon Matthews Senior Center. This nationally accredited and certified senior center recently celebrated 30 years of service to seniors in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. The Leon Matthews Senior Center is a great success due in part to the work of its wonderful staff, including the Director of the Pawtucket Senior Services Division, Mary Lou Moran, and the Information Specialist and Caseworker, Joan Newton. Joan and Mary Lou, like the rest of the staff of the center, have committed themselves to improving the lives of seniors in Pawtucket, providing them with a safe, supportive, and nurturing environment where seniors can access information about resources, programs, and services available on the local, state, and federal levels. The center acts as an advocate for the rights and well-being of older Americans on a wide variety of issues. The center has worked through 1,200 individual cases and annually serves 3,000 individuals. The Leon Matthews Senior Center does not work to be recognized, but today I'm proud to salute their great work and congratulate them on 30 years of service. I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman's time has expired. For what purpose the gentleman from Tennessee rise? The gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, today I rise to talk about a successful business in Tennessee's 3rd District, Oak Ridge Office Supply. For almost 15 years, they have grown their business, weathered through tough times, and brought jobs to Anderson County. With 17 employees now, they are a great example of what hard work and the American free enterprise system can do. I ran a business with my wife for 24 years, and I know how tough it is. The free enterprise system has helped make this country the greatest nation the world has ever known. It is those people who risk everything to start their own businesses and pursue their dreams that drive our economy. I was glad to give Oak Ridge Office Supply my very first Economic Excellence Award last week, and I will continue to hand out these awards as I recognize businesses in East Tennessee that embody the idea of hard work and success. Thank you. I yield back.
Gentleman's time has expired. For what purpose does the gentlewoman from California rise? The gentlelady is recognized for 1 minute.
This month is Filipino American History Month. It is time for us to take pride in our country's diversity and to celebrate the ways in which Filipino Americans have contributed to the vibrancy of our nation. Filipino Americans are civic leaders, healthcare providers, educators, and hardworking Americans. They've won Pulitzer Prizes, been elected to Congress, served as ambassadors, and pitched in the World Series. Filipinos volunteered by the thousands to help us win World War II and have served our nation's military in every war since. Filipinos first came to the U.S. and California over 400 years ago. Today, Filipino Americans have grown to be the 3rd largest Asian American group in the nation, and they reside in every corner of the United States. So as we celebrate Filipino American History Month, I hope you will join me and remember the many contributions that Filipino Americans have made to our great country. Thank you.
Gentleman's time has expired. For what purpose does the gentleman from Colorado rise?
Permission to address the House for 1 minute.
The gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
This past weekend, I volunteered at the 5th Annual Colorado Mission of Mercy, a 2-day free dental clinic held in a different Colorado community each year. This year, it was in Brush, Colorado, an appropriate name for a dental clinic. The Colorado Mission of Mercy brings more than 100 portable dental chairs into a Colorado community and provides dental services to children, adults, and elderly who cannot afford them on their own. The group has nearly 200 volunteer dentists from across the state and hundreds of dental hygienists, assistants, and lab technicians. This year, there were approximately 175 dentists, 947 volunteers, and nearly 1,500 patients who were served over the 2-day period. Helping people avoid dental discomfort that can interfere with school and work was a life-changing experience for many at the clinic. One person commented that now he doesn't have to be embarrassed because he doesn't have any lower teeth. This person now felt confident to go out and look for a job. Rural communities in particular face tougher challenges when it comes to getting proper dental care because there are so few dentists and people often have to drive long distances to see them. Proper care is vital to our overall health, and I commend the Colorado Mission of Mercy for sponsoring this event. I yield back my time.
Gentleman's time has expired. For what purpose does the gentlewoman from New York rise? The gentlewoman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I welcome President Obama's announcement that our brave men and women in armed forces serving in Iraq will soon be coming home in time for the holidays. This holiday season, we can expect to see 40,000 people returning to this country, and particularly some who are coming back to my Niagara Falls Air Force Base, where I look forward to welcoming them warmly. But as we approach Veterans Day and embrace this group of America's newest veterans, I'm troubled that in a time of 9.1% unemployment and an even higher rate of unemployment for our returning veterans, which approaches 12%, we have to ensure that these individuals will have jobs. Otherwise, it is a national disgrace. That is why it's critical that we pass the American Jobs Act. This would create a $5,600 Returning Heroes tax credit for employers who hire veterans, and a $9,600 tax credit for wounded warriors, again for employers who hire our veterans in with service-connected disabilities. In a country as grateful as ours for their service, we owe them no less. We owe them better. That is why I urge my colleagues to support me in joining the American Jobs Act. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield back the balance of my time.
The gentleman's time has expired. For what purpose does the gentlewoman from Wyoming rise?
Mr. Speaker, to address the House for 1 minute and advise and extend my remarks.
The gentlewoman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I travel my district of Wyoming and visited another district, Nevada, over the last work period, I heard repeatedly from small business people about the burdensome regulations that have been placed on their businesses and ability to hire people and put people back to work by the current administration here in Washington. So when I returned to Washington, I asked for a copy of all of the federal registers. Those are all the new regulations that have been printed just in this year alone and implemented by this administration. I now have in my office boxes of regulations that are taller than I am. And we're not even finished with this year. And going back to the year before and the year before, those regulations have been growing at exponential paces. If we're going to put Americans back to work, Mr. Speaker, we need to make sure that these rules that are taller than I am, thousands of pages, tens of thousands of pages, are repealed. And I yield back.
The gentleman's time has expired. For what purpose does the gentlewoman from Massachusetts rise?
For 1 minute.
The gentlewoman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, last week I hosted a town hall meeting in Lawrence, Massachusetts, to discuss ways to grow our domestic manufacturing base and promote policies that keep jobs in the United States, not overseas. Participating in this town hall were several major employers who have made the often challenging decision to keep their labor force here in the United States. Among these employers was New Balance, the last athletic shoemaker to make sneakers from first stitch to final product in the United States, and an employer of more than 800 Massachusetts workers. The success of these types of companies demonstrates that manufacturing jobs can still thrive in the United States, but we need to pursue policies at the federal level that support their efforts. House Democrats' Make It in America agenda provides the tax incentives, workforce training, and investment in 21st century education that will help keep the production of goods and services here in the United States. We can't sit back and allow our manufacturing base to be continually eroded. We must pass the Make It in America agenda.
The gentleman's time has expired. For what purpose does the gentleman from Minnesota rise? The gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Like the last speaker, I had the opportunity last week to visit an American manufacturer, Blue Star Power Systems, a small business in southern Minnesota employing 35 people, manufactures backup generators for schools, hospitals, and businesses. Doug Farforth, the CFO of Blue Star, told me something that made me pause. He said that nowadays his bank will tell him this: we believe in you, we believe in your product, but unless there is no risk, we don't want anything to do with you. Our economic system relies upon risks that small businesses take, like Blue Star Power, to create innovative products and services which boost our economy and grow our middle class. Yesterday, there was a New York Times story that said banks said they were turning depositors away at the door because the banks have more money than they know what to do with. I have a couple ideas that they can do with that money. Invest in Main Street. Invest in businesses like Blue Star Power Systems, who create first-class products right here in the United States. Blue Star also told me there's things that we can do in Congress that'll streamline the Small Business Administration and make it more efficient and effective. I look forward to working with them on that. There are actions that we can take right now so that Blue Star Power and other businesses just like them can continue to innovate and create jobs in America. I yield back.
Gentleman's time has expired. What purpose does the gentleman from Illinois rise?
To address the House for 1 minute.
Gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, 2 years ago, I stood on this floor and spoke out against the injustice of our nation's don't ask, don't tell policy. I told the story of Lee Reinhardt, a patriotic constituent of mine who wanted to serve his country in time of war. Lee had already retired from a 4-year Navy career when our nation was attacked on September 11th. Like many Americans after September 11th, Lee wanted to serve his country and again enlisted in the Coast Guard. But 4 months later, he was discharged under Don't Ask, Don't Tell. Last December, my colleagues and I repealed that policy. And Monday, I had the honor of administering the oath to Lee Reinhardt as he re-enlisted in the Navy. Dr. Martin Luther King once said, "The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice." Mr. Speaker, I was proud of my country and proud of Lee Reinhardt when justice finally arrived for both. Thank you, and I yield back.
Thank you. Gentleman's time has expired. For what purpose does the gentlewoman from California rise? The gentlewoman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, our top priority must be creating jobs. Yesterday, I hosted a job creation conference for my constituents right here in Washington, D.C. Central Coast business owners, development experts, job trainers, and educators shared their experiences about job creation and discussed actions the federal government can take to support them. I'm grateful to these dedicated job creators for taking the time and effort to come all the way from California for this important event. We had a packed day hearing from policy experts and top White House economic officials about the steps we need to take now to create jobs today and strengthen our economy for tomorrow. Opinions were diverse and spirited, but there was clear consensus on making it easier for businesses to succeed by lowering taxes and increasing access to credit, and making smart investments in education, in innovation, and in infrastructure. These are bipartisan common-sense solutions. Mr. Speaker, we simply can't wait any longer. The message from my constituents is clear. Put aside our partisan differences. Take action now for the American people.
Gentlewoman's time has expired. For what purpose does the gentleman from Mississippi rise?
To address the House for 1 minute.
Gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, there's a saying that the path of space goes through Hancock County, Mississippi. That statement has been true for 5 decades due to the unequaled excellence and dedication of the men and women of the John C. Stennis Space Center, which commemorates the 50th anniversary of its founding this week. The work done at Stennis is varied, but it is known worldwide as the home of rocket engine testing. Before we have sent men and women into space, the engines they ascended on were tested on the ground at Stennis. Every mission to the moon and every flight of the space shuttle roared with Stennis-tested engines. The Space Center is a beacon of innovation for private industry, educational institutions, and students of all ages. I am honored to serve as chairman of the Space Aeronautics Subcommittee. In my role, I hope to see all my colleagues visit the Stennis Space Center, especially to see an engine test. You will be awed by the technological ingenuity and complexity of the operation and of the passion and skill of the workforce. It is so easy to herald the past achievements of NASA and the Stennis Space Center, but it is the future that should drive us toward even greater ones. For the path back to the moon, to Mars, and beyond goes through Hancock County, Mississippi. Thank you.
Gentleman's time has expired. For what purpose does the gentleman from Texas rise?
Request permission to address the House for 1 minute, Mr. Speaker, and revise and extend my remarks.
The gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to support one of our nation's crowning achievements, the Social Security program, and the 55 million Americans who benefit from this critical program. Since 1935, Social Security has kept the promise to American seniors that after a lifetime of working and playing by the rules, you should not have to live in poverty when you retire. I was happy to see last week that after 2 years, our nation's seniors will receive a well-deserved cost of living adjustment increase of 3.6%. The American people should be concerned, however, that the recent announced COLA increase would effectively disappear if this Congress decides to adopt a changed CPI formula for Social Security. The chain consumer price index would lower benefits by $112 billion for current and future beneficiaries over the next 10 years. I support efforts to reduce our federal deficit, but we should not balance the nation's budget on the backs of seniors, the disabled, and children. I call on our colleagues to stand with American seniors in support of Social Security. It's not a Ponzi scheme, as some candidates for president allege. And let's celebrate the 3.6% for our seniors. Thank you.
Gentleman's time expired. For what purpose does the gentleman from Tennessee rise? Address the House for 1 minute. Gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to commend President Obama for announcing a plan this morning to lower student loan payments. The New York Times recently reported that student loan debt outpaced credit card debt for the first time last year, and the growth in student loan debt threatens to undermine the future life of the current generation of students. It was this realization that led me as a state senator to pass the Tennessee Education Lottery program that gives scholarships to our Tennessee students. Too many young people have an unbelievable amount of debt that burden them for the rest of their lives. The students that occupy Wall Street are very aware of this threat. Earlier this year, I reintroduced H.R. 2028, the Private Student Loan Bankruptcy Fairness Act, which will restore fair treatment to Americans in severe financial distress whose debts include private student loans. Before 2005, private student loans issued by for-profit lenders were appropriately treated in bankruptcy like credit card debt and other similar types of unsecured consumer liabilities. The bill I've introduced with Senator Durbin in the Senate would ensure that privately issued student loans will once again be treated like other debt and be dischargeable in bankruptcy. We need to give our students a fair chance. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I yield back the remainder of my time.
Gentleman's time expired. For what purpose does the gentlewoman from California rise? The gentlewoman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. As you know, violence against women in the United States is as insidious as it is destructive. And according to a study by the U.S. Department of Justice, Bureau of Justice Statistics, there are as many as 3 million cases of domestic violence across the United States every year. Due to the nature of the crime, the mental and physical costs of domestic violence are difficult to quantify, but they're far too obvious to ignore. Women suffering from domestic abuse average more emergency room visits, a significantly higher rate of unemployment, are more likely to lose the jobs they have, and are also more likely to rely on welfare. Various studies find the monetary cost to the federal government not only of the reported cases of domestic violence, but only of the domestic violence cases reported, to be an estimated billions of dollars. Regrettably, hard economic times make even more crimes of this sort likely to occur, which is why the Congress must ensure not only to address this growing epidemic, but to protect the necessary funds to protect the women of this country from domestic abuse. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I yield back.
The gentleman's time expired. For what purpose does the gentleman from Kentucky rise?
Request permission to address the House for 1 minute.
Gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to honor Louisville's Fairness Campaign, Kentucky's oldest lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender civil rights organization. This month, the Fairness Campaign is celebrating 20 years of fighting against discrimination, inspiring hope, and protecting our citizens. Thanks to Fairness, in 1999, Louisville became one of the first cities to prohibit housing and employment discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation and gender identity. Now, Fairness is working tirelessly to secure these protections for all Kentuckians. Because of Fairness, more Kentuckians are seeing that the lines once drawn between us because of sexual orientation and gender identity are only imaginary, and they're realizing that hate has no place in our Commonwealth. That's a message that needs to be heard not just from Pikeville to Paducah, but from coast to coast. I urge my colleagues to join me in congratulating the Fairness Campaign on 2 decades of service. It's truly thrilling how much progress they have made. I yield back.
Gentleman's time expired. For what purpose does the gentleman from Virginia rise? The gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, so the Super Committee is at a standstill. The Democrats won't consider cuts to entitlement programs, if the money is primarily for the purpose of cutting taxes on the wealthy. Republicans won't consider raising taxes on the wealthy from their currently historically low levels because these are the job creators. But where are the jobs? The fact is that corporate profits are at historic highs, as are CEO and investor compensation. But the reason for that corporate profit being historically high is that over the last several years, 75% of corporate profit has come from reduction in personnel costs. Then the top 1% reward themselves for cutting those costs and raising profits by increasing their own income and bonuses to record high levels. In fact, the CBO report that came out today confirms this. The wealthiest 1%, whose income the Republican majority wants so much to protect, went up by 275% since 1980. You don't get upward mobility, you don't realize our full potential as a nation when we have such a concentration of wealth at the top. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman's time has expired. For what purpose does the gentleman from California rise? Georgia, excuse me, Georgia. The gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I recently introduced the Fairness and Transparency in Contracting Act, which will help level the playing field for small businesses and ensure that publicly traded companies no longer masquerade and then receive contracts meant for small businesses. Small business contracts should go to small businesses. Unfortunately, loopholes in the system have resulted in subsidiaries of large corporations receiving federal small business contracts. The GAO has found that small businesses across the nation are the real losers when the federal contracts are awarded to large firms that should not be eligible. Mr. Speaker, Congress should no longer turn a blind eye when large publicly traded and foreign-owned companies obtain federal small business contracts. The Fairness and Transparency in Contracting Act will ensure that America's small businesses can compete. I urge my colleagues to support this legislation, and I yield back.
Gentleman's time expired. For what purpose does the gentleman from Michigan rise?
To address the House for 1 minute and to revise and extend my remarks.
Gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Several months ago, I introduced House Resolution 365, which asks this Congress to cut student loan debt and home mortgage debt. As a result, several hundreds of thousands of people all around this country signed an online petition to support this resolution. I'm happy to say that our voices are now being heard. The White House is moving in the right direction on helping to cut student loan debt. But I'm urging the American public to keep speaking out. Sign on to this petition to support House Resolution 365 and help free the American people from excessive home mortgage and student loan debt. I yield back my time.
The gentleman's time has expired. For what purpose does the gentleman from South Carolina rise?
Mr. Speaker, by the direction of the Committee on Rules, I call up House Resolution 448 and ask for its immediate consideration.
The clerk will report the resolution.
House Calendar Number 84, House Resolution 448. Resolved, that upon adoption of this resolution, it shall be in order to consider in the House the bill H.R. 2576 to amend the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 to modify the calculation of modified adjusted gross income for purposes of determining eligibility for certain health care-related programs. All points of order against consideration of the bill are waived. The bill shall be considered as read. All points of order against provisions in the bill are waived. The previous question shall be considered as ordered on the bill to final passage without intervening motion except one. 1 hour of debate equally divided and controlled by the Chair and Ranking Minority Member of the Committee on Ways and Means. And 2, 1 motion to recommit. Section 2. Upon the adoption of this resolution, it shall be in order to consider in the House the bill H.R. 674 to amend the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 to repeal the imposition of 3% withholding on certain payments made to vendors by government entities. All points of order against consideration of the bill are waived. The amendment printed in the report of the Committee on Rules accompanying this resolution shall be considered as adopted. The bill as amended shall be considered as read. All points of order against provisions of the bill as amended are waived. The previous question shall be considered as ordered on the bill as amended to final passage without intervening motion except one 1 hour of debate equally divided and controlled by the Chair and Ranking Minority Member of the Committee on Ways and Means, and 2, 1 motion to recommit with or without instructions. Section 3A. In the engrossment of H.R. 674, the clerk shall 1. Add the text of H.R. 2576 as passed by the House as new matter at the end of H.R. 674. 2. Conform the title of H.R. 674 to reflect the addition of the text of H.R. 2576 as passed by the House to the engrossment. 3. Assign appropriate designations to provisions within the engrossment. And 4. Conform provisions for short titles within the engrossment. B. Upon the addition of the text of H.R. 2576 as passed by the House to the engrossment of H.R. 674, H.R. 2576 shall be laid on the table.
For the purpose of debate.
Without objection, the gentleman from South Carolina is recognized for 1 hour.
Thank you, sir. For the purpose of debate only, I yield the customary 30 minutes to the gentleman from Florida, Mr. Hastings, pending which I yield myself such time as I may consume. During consideration of this resolution, all time yielded is for the purpose of debate only. Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that all members have 5 legislative days to revise and extend their remarks.
Without objection.
House Resolution 488 provides for a closed rule for consideration of H.R. 674, a bill to amend the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 to repeal the imposition of the 3% withholding on certain payments made to vendors by government entities, and H.R. 2576 to amend the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 to modify the calculation of modified adjusted gross income for purposes of determining eligibility for certain health care related programs. Mr. Speaker, I rise today in support of this rule and the underlying bills. We have here something very simple, a bill to save jobs in America and a way to pay for it through a simple technical fix in the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act that is supported by the President and many Democrats in this chamber. H.R. 674, or what I will call the Saving American Jobs Act, would repeal the 3% withholding requirement on government payments to businesses both large and small. This is truly a bipartisan bill with more than 60 Democrats among the 269 co-sponsors. Even the President supports changing the withholding tax. The tax is a job killer, plain and simple. Beginning January 1st, 2013, government agencies at all levels, federal, state, and local, will have to withhold 3% of the payments to businesses for goods and services. For many small businesses, this has the potential to completely wipe out their profit margin. At a time when we have a desperate need to create jobs and to create the environment for job creation, the withholding tax does the exact opposite. And for many state and local governments, the implementation costs will be huge at a time when their budgets are already stretched thin. For example, in my home state of South Carolina, the state comptroller estimates the implementation costs associated with this tax will take up 11.5% of their budget. This tax punishes all businesses for the sins of a few, automatically and wrongly assuming all job creators who do business with the federal government are somehow evading full taxation. Last I checked, we should be encouraging people to follow the law, not penalizing them for doing so. The tax also treats all businesses the same regardless of their taxable income. In the construction industry, for example, where unemployment is currently at 13.5%, companies rarely have a pre-tax profit margin of more than 3%. Therefore, a 3% withholding tax would completely wipe out their profit margin. As a former small business owner myself, I can assure you this is not the kind of math that leads to job creation. This tax will also harm local governments already hurting for dollars by placing on them another unfunded mandate to collect a federal tax. Again, as former chairman of Charleston County Council, this is more math that just doesn't add up. With unemployment still at 9%, our job creators need capital to invest and long-term certainty in the tax code. Taking hard-earned dollars away from our job creators will only lead to higher prices, lower wages, and lost jobs. Once again, Mr. Speaker, I rise in support of this rule and the underlying legislation. I encourage my colleagues to vote yes on the rule and yes on the underlying bills, and I reserve the balance of my time.
The gentleman reserves the balance of his time. For what, the gentleman from Florida is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I yield myself such time as I may consume.
The gentleman is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I thank my friend for yielding the time, and I rise today in opposition to the combined rule for H.R. 674 and 2576. The underlying bill, H.R. 674, repeals the 3% withholding for taxes on payments to government contractors. In H.R. 2576, it will make health care unaffordable for 500,000 Americans, and that's not according to me, that's according to CBO, leaving them with no choice but to drop their coverage. This bill will also increase the cost or reduce the coverage for many more Americans, including individuals with severe disabilities. The pairing of these two bills is not, in my considered opinion, an appropriate use of our nation's tax code, and in my opinion does nothing to create jobs. It is part of the same old all-or-nothing majority strategy that led to the debt ceiling standoff earlier this year. The Republicans have taken a bipartisan idea, and it is bipartisan, as my good friend from South Carolina said, that would actually put money directly in the pockets of hardworking Americans and made its passage contingent on a bill that rehashes the health care reform debate from the last Congress. Once again, my colleagues have chosen to play politics with the lives of middle-class and working poor Americans. The withholding requirement itself was passed in 2005 when President George W. Bush was in the White House, and Republicans had majorities in both the House and the Senate. But it was never implemented, and it has been put off a number of times. Today, there is broad support for repealing this Republican-created provision. H.R. 674 has, as my friend said, 269 bipartisan co-sponsors. Since Republicans have now brought a bill to the floor that would repeal this requirement, it is clear that this measure should not be combined, as in this rule, with H.R. 2576. Getting rid of this provision will keep administrative costs down and assist American businesses during these challenging economic times. However, Republicans want to pay for the 3% bill by making it harder for retirees, the disabled, and poor to get access to health insurance. This is yet again an inappropriate use of our tax code. This bill is known as the MAGI, M-A-G-I bill, Modified Adjusted Gross Income. It repeals a provision in the Affordable Care Act that allows individuals and families to exclude non-taxable Social Security benefits from their income when determining their eligibility for health care benefits. This definition would also apply when qualifying for Medicaid and federal subsidies to buy private insurance in the state-run exchanges. According to the Joint Committee on Taxation, the exclusion of non-taxable Social Security benefits is typical when applying income limitations to tax benefits. Regardless of the facts, my friends in the majority have decided to throw retirees and disabled individuals under the bus in order to offset a completely unrelated bill. My friends on the other side of the aisle claim that this is about equity and fairness. But is it equitable for as many as 500,000 Americans to lose all their health care coverage as a result of this measure? What do we say to these individuals? Sorry, all 500,000 of you are out of luck. Is it fair to make health care less accessible to low and middle income individuals rather than close loopholes and cancel special tax deals for wealthy oil companies? In contrast, the Democrat substitute offered by Mr. Levin, the ranking member of the Ways and Means Committee, will make oil companies pay their fair share of taxes, thereby reducing the deficit by $5.3 billion over 5 years and $12.8 billion over 10 years. It is clear that H.R. 2576 is not about equity at all. It's about forcing individual taxpayers to shoulder the burden of business tax provisions. H.R. 2576 will impose higher costs on retirees and persons with severe disabilities, shifting them out of Medicaid coverage or requiring that they contribute significantly more of their income for health insurance coverage through reduced tax credits. How do Republicans intend to offset the costs, such as increased trips to the emergency room? How do you offset that association with 500,000 Americans suddenly losing their health insurance coverage? The tax code should not be used to effectively reduce health care coverage and increase costs for those least affordable or able to afford it. Make no mistake, H.R. 2576 is yet another attempt by Republicans to undermine comprehensive health care reform. Last week, the Senate Republicans forced a vote on 3% withholding repeal bill, but it too failed over unreasonable Republican demands. Where are the jobs? Instead of passing a jobs bill, Republicans are redefining the rules to make health care less accessible for a considerable number of Americans. These bills together are a new approach to cutting the deficit for Republicans. Until recently, they said that the only way to fix the deficit was to starve the beast. That is, spending cuts only. But with a bill like H.R. 2576 that takes away health care from hundreds of thousands of Americans, Republicans have decided that rather than starving the beast, it's better to feed the beast to our society's most vulnerable members. Mr. Speaker, at this time I reserve the balance of my time.
The gentleman reserves the balance of his time. The gentleman from South Carolina.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, it's odd as the American people continue to watch Congress asking for a bipartisan approach to what we do here. It's very odd for us to find ourselves in that position today, saying to the American people, we are finally on the right page of a bipartisan approach. And as it relates to the whole undermining of the Health Care Act, the President himself has released a statement, an administration policy statement that simply says that he supports 2576. The fact of the matter is, if we are going to find ways to save Medicaid and keep it available for the next generation, we must do those things in a bipartisan approach that actually solves the problems without increasing the system unnecessarily. Mr. Speaker, I yield 5 minutes to the gentlelady from Tennessee, Ms. Diane Black.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank my colleague from South Carolina for yielding. I'd like to begin by stating that this legislation, H.R. 2576, is about fairness. When the news broke this summer that the Affordable Care Act contained a loophole that would allow middle-class Americans to receive Medicaid benefits, I, like many of my colleagues, were very concerned. The new income formula that determines eligibility for government subsidies health insurance, the Modified Adjusted Gross Income, or also known as MAGI, deviated from all of the other federal assistance programs, failing to include Social Security benefits as income. Under the health care law,
a married couple with an annual income of over $60,000 could qualify to receive Medicaid benefits. Let me put it in more stark terms. Changing the income formula could result in individuals whose incomes are up to 400% of the poverty level receiving Medicaid. This is unacceptable. I very strongly believe that it is our duty to ensure that the very scarce Medicaid dollars and resources are there for those who are in the most need. Again, let me state that the Affordable Care Act's income formula for Medicaid, CHIP, and exchange subsidies deviated from the eligibility requirements for all other federal assistance programs, such as Social Security income, supplemental Social Security income, supplemental nutrition assistance programs, also known as food stamps, temporary assistance for needy families, and public housing. All include the entire Social Security benefit as income. My bill, H.R. 2576, would add Social Security benefits back into the equation, realigning Medicaid with all the other programs and stopping these improper payments before they occur. It is incorrect to assert that this legislation unfairly targets widows, survivors, and the disabled. This is equivalent of asserting that the public housing or the SNAP are unfairly targeted to widows, survivors, disabled, simply because when accounting for the resource programs, they consider the source of income. The health care law's deviation from the typical method of counting income results in taxpayer dollars being directed to individuals who do not meet the standard definition of low income. According to the current law, a couple who both earn Social Security benefits and has a total income of $22,065 would have a higher income than a couple earning $58,840 for the purpose of determining eligibility for the federal subsidies in the exchange. This is totally unfair. When asked about the Magi glitch, CMS actuary Richard Foster said, and I quote, "I don't generally comment on the pros and cons of policy, but that just doesn't make sense," end quote. Foster said the situation keeps him up at night and has previously compared the Magi formula to allowing middle-class Americans to receiving food stamps. Additionally, Richard Surian, the HHS Secretary for Public Affairs, conceded that, and I quote, "As a matter of law, some middle-income Americans may be receiving coverage through Medicaid, which is meant to serve only the neediest Americans." Now, it is important to note that my legislation does not take away a benefit from anyone on the Medicaid rolls today. Magi would not be in effect until 2014, so it's important that we bring Medicaid back into line with all of the other federal assistance programs as soon as possible. Additionally, my legislation enjoys bipartisan support. In the Senate, in the HELP committee, ranking member Mike Enzi has a companion bill, and President Obama himself, as has already been noted, recognizes the problem. In the recent debt reduction plan, the President explicitly proposes that the entire amount of Social Security benefits be included in the definition of income. And as has already been stated, here was a statement of administration policy put out yesterday, and I want to read that to you. The administration supports H.R. 2576, which could change the calculation of the modified adjusted gross income as defined in Section 1401 of the Affordability Care Act to include both taxable and non-taxable Social Security benefits.
30 seconds. Recognized for 30 more seconds.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This common-sense bipartisan solution would bring Medicaid into line with all the other federal assistance programs and ensure that the program is there for those who are in the most need. That is very important. Furthermore, and I believe this cannot be emphasized enough, according to CBO and the Joint Tax Committee estimates, this bill could save taxpayers approximately $13 billion over 10 years. Considering our $14 trillion in national debt, closing this loophole as soon as possible is a good policy on a number of levels. Thank you, and I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentlewoman's time has expired. Gentleman from Florida.
I'm very pleased to yield 1.5 minutes to the distinguished gentleman from Pennsylvania, my friend Mr. Altmaier.
Gentleman from Pennsylvania is recognized for 1.5 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, I rise in support of this legislation, which is bipartisan and co-sponsored by almost two-thirds of our colleagues in this chamber. Earlier this year, Congress passed another bill with almost equal support when we repealed the burdensome 1099 requirement. Today, we are again working in a bipartisan way to make this common-sense change to the tax code that will provide much-needed certainty to businesses around the country. I've heard from numerous small businesses in my district that if the 3% withholding provision goes into effect as scheduled, firms that do business with the federal, state, and local governments will face what amounts to a tax increase at this time when they can least afford it. Congress has previously voted to delay implementation of this provision, but we can do more to show businesses in western Pennsylvania and across the country that we are serious about helping them succeed. I urge my colleagues to join me in permanently repealing the 3% withholding tax provision, and I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman yields back the balance of his time. The gentleman from South Carolina.
Mr. Speaker, I yield 2 minutes to the gentleman from Pennsylvania, Mr. Mike Fitzpatrick.
Gentleman is recognized for 2 minutes.
I thank the gentleman and for the time and also for your leadership in bringing both parties together around this idea that will create jobs in the United States. And so I rise in support of the rule today and in support of the underlying legislation. Throughout the past year, I've heard over and over again from small businesses, from women-owned businesses, from contracting businesses, hospitals, and the like, that this rule, which essentially amounts to a tax, will hinder businesses' ability to compete, grow, and thereby create jobs. This bill that's before the House today would right a wrong that unnecessarily punishes good actors, small businesses and local governments who do business with the federal government in good faith. Small businesses who often operate with the thinnest of margins will be unnecessarily targeted in the federal government's zeal to capture more money. Small and medium-sized businesses are being looked to for our economic recovery. We cannot simultaneously ask American companies to begin hiring again while we withhold the capital that they require to grow. Additionally, while the 3% withholding bill was originally well-intentioned, implementation of this rule has been continuously delayed, most recently in the 2009 stimulus bill and again by the IRS in May of 2011. This is a clear indication of the widespread recognition that this provision is costly and harmful to our economy. So, Mr. Speaker, I co-sponsor this underlying bill because it is bipartisan legislation that will be good for the economy and will help create certainty for job creators. The President has expressed support for this repeal, and I urge swift action on the legislation in the Senate. I ask my colleagues to support the rule in the underlying bill. I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman yields back. The gentleman from Florida.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. I'm very pleased to yield to my good friend 3 minutes of the distinguished gentleman from New Jersey, Mr. Andrews.
New Jersey is recognized.
I ask unanimous consent to revise and extend my remarks.
Gentleman's recognized.
Mr. Speaker. I thank my friend from Florida for yielding. As we meet this afternoon, 15 million Americans are unemployed. The President has a proposal to put people to work modernizing 35,000 schools in America, but we're not voting on that bill. The President has a proposal that would avoid a $1,500 a year tax increase on middle-class Americans January 1st if we don't act, but we're not voting on that bill. The President has ideas to help the real job creators, the small businesses of this country, get bank loans from the people they bailed out with their tax dollars in the TARP bill a couple years ago, but we're not voting on that bill. Now, we are voting on a bill that we should support that says that businesses should not have to make an interest-free loan to the government when they do business with the government. I'm for that. But you do need to understand the way this bill is paid for. This bill does have an offset, meaning it will not add to the deficit. I think we're all for that. But it's important to understand the way we make that decision. There were two options as to how we might take care of that offset. We said Let's go to the industry that's had the most successful year in its history, the oil industry, and stop giving our tax dollars to the oil industry when they're making record profits. That idea is not up for a vote. What is up for a vote is a provision that may make some sense. It may make some sense. It essentially deals with the adjustment formula for benefits under the new health care law. But we're not really sure exactly how the proposal will operate. There is a risk that some deserving middle-class people will pay higher health insurance premiums if this is not done in the right way. So understand this. The first way we could have paid for this bill would be to go to the oil industry and say, you've had enough time at the public trough, you're making record profits, no. Or we could say, let's roll the dice and let's try this experiment with the health premiums of middle-class people. Guess who won? Now, we thought that it would be good to at least put the two ideas up for a vote, but this rule doesn't do that. So the House will have to work its will today on the underlying bill. I'm going to vote for the underlying bill. But I'd really look forward to voting next week. Let me say one other thing. The plan for the House the rest of the year is to be here another 14 days between now and New Year's Day and take the rest of the year off. A lot of Americans are going to have the rest of the year off too, involuntarily, because they're out of work. Let's get to the business of creating an environment where small businesses create jobs for the people of this country. Let's put Americans back to work after we do this good business of today. I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman yields back. Gentleman from South Carolina.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. One of the things that's so important for us to recognize is the importance of living within our means and allowing our ability to control our spending to dictate what we're able to use, as opposed to having more tax increases as a way to fund the resource priorities of this nation. Mr. Speaker, I yield 2 minutes to the gentleman from Oklahoma, Mr. James Lankford. 3 minutes.
Gentleman from Oklahoma is recognized for 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I rise in support of the rule in the underlying bill of H.R. 674, which repeals the 3% withholding requirements on state and local governments for goods and services. The 3% withholding requirement is just another layer of burden and unfunded mandates on our states, cities, counties, and private entities. Withholding 3% of a contract at the start, just in case, sets a horrible precedent. When we find a bad actor in the contracting community, we should have aggressive prosecution, suspension, and debarment. But we should not have a national policy that assumes every contractor in America is a tax cheat. It's a dreadful policy, and it's horrible economics. Let me break this down to what it will mean for communities in my state of Oklahoma. In Oklahoma City, it will cost between $75,000 and $250,000 to implement the initial financial system and all the modifications to comply with these rules. After that, it's expected to cost at least $15,000 a year to maintain those modifications in the financial system. To ensure that Oklahoma City fully complies with these mandates, to maintain the financial system, the Oklahoma City estimates they're going to have to hire 2 additional full-time employees. Now, I understand that we're all about job creation here, but our job creation should focus on goods and services and taking care of people, not filling out even more federal forms. In Edmond, Oklahoma, they're concerned how the 3% withholding requirement would eventually be passed along to the buyer, increasing the overall cost. Edmond's annual contractual services expenditure line is over $130 million this year. If the cost of these products and services are increased by 3% to cover the withholding costs, Edmond's expenditures will be raised by $4 million. Worse yet, that can mean contractors choosing not to bid on city and local projects, ultimately decreasing competition and increasing the cost. A contractor in Tecumseh, Oklahoma, small town, that I spoke with told me that with the down economy, he only had a 2% profit margin last year. The 3% requirement would stifle his cash flow and would force him to increase his bids, which of course would be passed along to the taxpayer. Mr. Speaker, as we continue to find ways to kickstart our economy and encourage job growth in the private sector, I am hopeful we can come to a bipartisan agreement to reduce the regulatory burden on state and local governments and encourage private sector growth. I am sure it is well-intentioned at the start, but it is time to eliminate this burdensome regulation. And I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman yields back. Gentleman from Florida.
Mr. Speaker, I'm very pleased to yield 3 minutes to my friend and classmate from Oregon, Mr. Blumenauer.
I appreciate the gentleman's courtesy. I'm pleased that the House
will deal with the repeal this week. I was honored to be the principal co-sponsor with my good friend Wally Herger of the Ways and Means Committee to have a bipartisan effort to move this legislation forward. I didn't vote for this bill in 2005 in the first place, and I have been working to fix it ever since the impact was revealed to us. Tax compliance is an important goal. We have somewhere in the neighborhood of $200 to $300 billion a year that is owed to the federal government to meet our obligations and reduce burdens on others that is not paid. But this bill is decidedly not the approach to take. My good friend Congressman Hanna, a freshman Republican from upstate New York, has an excellent op-ed in today's roll call that outlines how onerous it is from his perspective as having been a small contractor. There are 3 points that I think ought to be made as we go forward. First of all, we got this bill because we didn't follow regular order in 2005. I don't think there was ever a hearing before our Ways and Means Committee that talked about this bill that allowed contractors and small businesses to be able to explain the impact. I am very pleased that I think Chairman Camp is committed to trying to follow regular order in this Congress, unlike what happened in 2005. The second point is that this reveals a flaw in the CBO calculation. I'm not faulting CBO. They're following their rules. But they assume that the federal government has the capacity to implement it, and they only count the revenues. Well, you don't have to go very far to understand that this wouldn't just be a burden on small business. It wouldn't just be a burden on state and local government. Cost of compliance for the federal government itself will, I guarantee you, be more than the amount of money that would be collected. Finally, I felt that we could do better in paying for it, but frankly, I think the situation that we are in the months ahead is that we're going to need to do both. We will be making the adjustment that is advanced by my friends from the Ways and Means Committee, and we will be approving the elements that are in the motion from that the Democrats would do in terms of fixing an egregious tax loophole for oil companies that only serves to improve their bottom line, does nothing to increase oil supply, does nothing to lower prices. But I will try and move both of those forward.